She won't go. She won't go. A bag in.
Go inside.
అతను హ్యాండింగ్ స్టిక్ కంప్యూటర్ టేబుల్ ఉందా పక్కనే ఇట్లా ఇలాంటి పెట్టిన అట్లాంటి ఇంకోటి ఉంటుంది అట్లాంటిది ఉంటుంది ఇంకోటి తీసుకోండి పైనుంచి వస్తుంది అట్లా ఒక్క నిమిషం డబ్బా మూత పట్టుకు పెట్టుకో మూత కావాలి లిఫ్ట్ చేయి బాటిల్ లిఫ్ట్ చేయి
That was Akhil, who was rescuing that spectacled cobra and was assisted by his wife Shwetha. And I witnessed that breathtaking rescuing operation during my visit to Amrabad Tiger Reserves around 1 year back. So who are Akhil and Shwetha, and how I met them and what I learned from them? To know more about this, listen to this podcast. Hello, all of you who are listening this podcast. So today I'm going to introduce two people, two conservation crusaders, Shwetha and Akhil. They're a couple who have dedicated their lives for the promotion of ecotourism, conservation, and more importantly, the lives of indigenous people who are living in and around forest. At some point of time, both of them were fintech professionals, but eventually they left their corporate job in high-tech city of Hyderabad and started working with Forest Department for conservation and ecotourism. And there's a specialty actually about the way they do their ecotourism, and that's what I exactly call as inclusive ecotourism. And why do I call it inclusive ecotourism? Because when first time I met them in Amrabad Tiger Reserve of Telangana state of India, before starting off our conventional jeep safari, Akhil took me to the information center of the Tiger Reserve, which was also run by them. And there I had around 45 minutes to 1 hour of orientation session. So about the forest, about the Tiger Reserves. And that was probably the first time in my life, in my 10 years of ecotourism activities, I had experienced such elaborate orientation program about the Tiger Reserve before start of the safari. And there I learned about Chenchu tribals and their life who live in and around Amrabad Tiger Reserves, and how they're cohabiting with nature and wildlife, how they're dependent on various forest products for their day-to-day life. I also learned in that session about various flora and fauna of the rich biodiversity of Amrabad Tiger Reserves, the specialty of Amrabad Tiger Reserves. So clearly, that Amrabad Tiger Reserve, which is the second largest tiger reserve of our country, and in spite of located in these tiger reserves, their ecotourism was not just about mere tiger chasing or tiger-centric tourism. Rather, they have a holistic approach of involving or generating awareness about all flora and fauna of Amrabad Tiger Reserves, and more importantly, the indigenous people, the forest dwellers, their importance in the forest was part of their ecotourism approach. And that's why I call it as inclusive ecotourism. So, Shwetha and Akhil, welcome to my show, and thanks for taking your time for this session. So, before we have an elaborate discussion about ecotourism, conservation, and Amrabad Tiger Reserves, I'm curious to know that why did you leave your fintech profession, a corporate job, and take up what made you basically taking up your passion for nature and wildlife?
Long story. I think I will cut down to a simple thing that I can say that, as a kid, I always, I don't say that I'm a different person, but I think I was more connected with, wildlife or whatever it is, but and I was deeply connected with it, and I thought my roots were there. And I always thought that, at some point of time, I realized when I was a kid that I'm very happy and I feel very comfortable when I am in the nature when I was a kid. And slowly that developed into interest. And I always thought that if I have to do something and if I want to work anywhere, it's only for my wildlife. Where I work, even I was when I was working in the IT sector or whatever thing, uh, weekends were always dedicated to my wildlife. So I just worked over there for some time to just have an experience how the world is other side as well. Until unless you don't go and see the other side, you always might think one part of time that I wish I was there. Okay, but when you go there and you realize where you belong to, I think that's where when you can make a right decision in life. And that's the reason why I went there, worked over there, and also saved some monies because apart from the wildlife, I only travel. I'm a traveler, so I only travel to wildlife places. I don't go to any other places. So I went there, saw what life is all about, and I thought, although I was successful over there, but I used to miss this wildlife all the time. Every day when I go and go into my cab and go to my work, every day, all the people who are in my cab also used to say that you don't belong to here because I only talk about wildlife. I live and I do everything about wildlife. But that's how people started, talking to me, and they recognized me not as Shweta, but a wildlife person. So I think I love my wildlife so much that, wherever I do, whatever I do, I come back and I think I'm very comfortable. And I think it gives me immense satisfaction to work with wildlife. And I feel it's my family. What else I can say?
No, that's very well articulated, Shweta, and particularly liked what you said that when you work for where you exactly belong, then you actually do the justice with your life, and that's what exactly you are doing, and I have witnessed that.
Thank
So,
you.
Akhil, I like to ask one question to you. I mean, of course, you and I had this interaction when we are doing safari together in Amrabad on the first day evening. You told me the story actually that how you visited various places. We talked about North Bengal Boxer Tiger Reserves, which is also part of my book, and then how you landed in Amrabad. But I understand that now you are kind of associated with an organization called Deccan Woods and Trails. So if you talk about a little bit about that Deccan Woods and Trails and how what's its contribution actually in ecotourism and what significance of that will be that will be fascinating actually to hear from you.
Great. Uh, Thank you, Arnab, for all this opportunity. Thanks so much for organizing this one for us. I'm sure this meeting after this, many people are going to look at this and they'll get to learn a lot of things, especially what's happening in Telangana, which is one of the Telugu state. And see, both of our journey started together long time ago, probably in 1995. From then on, from 95 onwards, we were associated with activities mostly that were related to wildlife.
Mhm.
So we were very lucky to have good gurus at that time, who opened up an entire video window for us of wildlife. So this guru's name is Rajkumar Kanuri. He started the Friends of Snakes Society in Hyderabad, and he was the one who actually introduced wildlife to us. And after after so many years of working with him, unfortunately he's not there anymore with us. But I've learned that how a naturalist was very important, and what kind of an important role a naturalist played. So he was actually a true naturalist who introduced us to the wildlife. Because of him we developed so much of passion, and as we grew we realized that there is so much which we want to do. However, unless we include some uh, incentivization for local people, this won't really work properly the way it is expected to work. So that's why we started off working with the Amrabad Tiger Reserve. That was a great opportunity. And today, to answer your question, the Deccan Woods and Trails. Basically, it's the Forest Department itself which has this Deccan Woods and Trails, and I'm sure you know that there is Forest Department, and then the Forest Development Corporation. So who look into rewilding of tree plantations, uh, incentivizing locals for all the tree that which have been planted. So the Telangana Forest Development Corporation has started a brand known as the Deccan Woods and Trails. Now, when we look at Amrabad Tiger Reserve, they have this Mannur Jungle Resort where a thorough introduction is given to all the guests who come stay with us, and then followed by the best wildlife experiences, one of the best wildlife experiences. So, this Deccan Woods and Trails by the Telangana Forest Development Corporation has a little larger scope in comparison to the currently that's what's happening in Amrabad. So, because it's a corporation, they're going to spread all over Telangana, and whichever areas are pristine today, whichever areas have a lot of wildlife, wherever there is a lot of scope for wildlife, they want to give incentives to the local people in the form of providing them employment. Example for work, if they had some cottages there, they would employ them. And then if there are any local tribes there, we will employ them as naturalists, give them thorough training so that eventually they will be able to give a very good experience to the guests. So all this is because many of these areas today, I feel, are heavily polluted. There is a lot of tourist activity. A lot of people come randomly. They come take a walk wherever they can. They litter all around the place and then they just go back. Now it's left to us to clean. So this is becoming very difficult. So because of this, if we had started some nature-based ecotourism program in all these areas, it would be very important uh, point, because we'll be able to keep the area clean. There will be a lot of regulations on the current ways of tourism which is happening. That will keep the area clean. It will also, more importantly, provide incentives to the local people. Thereby, they'll also get a lot of motivation that in protecting the jungle around them. So that is what we are actually aiming at.
No, that is excellent. That is amazing, actually. And as you have rightly said, that definitely tourism is a high economic and revenue generating activities, not for the forest department, but also for various private sectors as well. A lot of people are making their living solely depending on tourism and ecotourism, especially wildlife tourism. But that has a flip side as well, as you have said, that tourists are not educated enough. Not tourism literacy or ecotourism literacy, if we talk about, that is not there. And that kind of create the waste generation, litter generation, and that uh, eventually that defeat the whole purpose of ecotourism. So in this context, and also what I have experienced actually in Amrabad Tiger Reserve, I particularly seen that your waste recycling project and your endeavor on waste segregation, the plastic waste management, which I witnessed over there when I was in Amrabad Tiger Reserves. So this is a more kind of specific questions to Shwetha, to you, because you are probably currently more closely associated with Amrabad. You are taking this call from Amrabad Tiger Reserve, in
Yeah.
fact, and very closely related with day-to-day operation of administration and ecotourism conservation. So if you can just provide us some kind of insight that what are the challenges in conducting ecotourism and at the same time striking balance to conservation with respect to Amrabad Tiger Reserves.
Yeah, I can say, like, initially when we start anything new, as you know that in state of Telangana, tourism is, especially the safari concept, is not that popular. Unlike other places, if you see other states, they are way ahead of us, and they know the concept of safaris and stuff like that. Here, it's a new concept, and people are. It takes a little time for us to make people understand why we're doing it, but we are at a stage now like people are able to understand and why we're doing it. But initially, like, to make to start something over here, for example, ecotourism in true sense is like, you don't leave any carbon, right? Or you don't litter the place, and you put certain rules and regulations in place wherein everybody have to abide by the rules. Okay, so initially when we start something, the local people might start thinking that that's not the way they lived before, right? You ask them, like, you cannot carry plastic. As you know that now Amrabad Tiger Reserve is plastic free, so we don't allow anybody. We have a check post where all the plastic frisking is done, and we don't allow anybody to take plastic inside. So we already given them a time to understand why we're doing it. But initial the starting of this program, we went into the villages, we went to the shopkeepers, we also had a meeting with the all the tourists who come from Hyderabad, and even with the RTC people, we had a meeting and we told them that you cannot give water bottles or stuff like that, which is plastic. So initially, like, to mold them, to make them understand why we're doing it, was the biggest challenge. Because if you talk about doing ecotourism, it's not just tourism. Tourism is like, you don't have to really bother about certain things, but we do ecotourism, not tourism at all.
Yeah.
So initially, to make people understand that why we are not allowing people to take plastic inside, and having certain rules and regulations, it was a little challenge. But we didn't just do or impose rules and regulations on people, but rather than imposing things, we also worked on giving alternative for people, giving them what is the alternative that you can make your life as it is. Okay, by
Right.
being responsible. And if you're doing this, taking up these alternatives, it's creating employment, it's also generating more revenue. I'll tell you one good example. Like, initially when we told that you cannot have plastic water bottles, like, can any other company, the water bottles which come in the plastic, which is 1 liter, are not accepted. Okay, so for example, a person who's selling this water bottle, 10 bottles if he's selling, he's making 15 rupees or 20 rupees profit for the 10 bottles. Okay, so it's not a huge amount. So what we did is we told the people to start their own oro plant in our village, and they have glass bottles which will be sealed and it will be safe water drink. So all of them were like not ready to install their own RO plant. So we, from the forest department, we got our own RO plant established over here, and we told the local people, you're welcome to take water free of cost, because it is under our guidelines, and we also make sure the water is safe to drink. And we also told them that they cannot sell any plastic bottles. This is where people are like, when we are giving free of cost initially to start up with. Even if I'm going to sell the water, the 20 liters water is given to them at just 5 rupees. Okay, just imagine,
That's
20
wonderful.
liters is like
Yeah.
20 bottles.
Yeah.
Even if you're even if you're charging 10 rupees per bottle, you're straight away making 5 rupees profit on a bottle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you're sending plastic, you're selling plastic bottles, which you're like sending 20 selling, you're making just 20 rupees, but you're selling 20 glass bottles, your profit is somewhere else.
Right. So you're
So why
solving
would
two
it?
problems over here. One is the plastic innovation, plastic waste problems. At the same time, you are increasing the income by manifold
Yeah.
of the local people who are selling the bottles.
Yeah. So it's like, when you put impose rules and regulations, it's important for us also to understand, from where they're coming from.
Right.
You can't impose certain rules and regulations and tell them that, your livelihood is going to be at stake. But then when you
Right.
grow an alternative and when they're able to make more money, they will fight for it. So we
Absolutely.
believe in working along with the community, making them, sensitizing them why we are doing it. And that's how the things will go. It will go a long way actually. We didn't really have to struggle hard when we showed them. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that it was an easy job. Definitely a lot of things were like, difficult for us to convince, but over a period of time when they saw it's benefiting them, and economically when they're able to stabilize their life better, why wouldn't anybody not be a part of this program?
Right.
Yeah.
That's excellent actually, and particularly the my key takeaway from what you say just now, that of course this is an example, this is an excellent case study, I would say, of ecotourism, that how you are managing the side effect of the tourist influx, which is plastic waste generation, and at the same time you are giving much more income generation opportunities to the local people, and they become your uh, uh, they become party to your fight against, because they are basically standing with you to fight against
Yeah.
this waste generation issue. And particularly, you mentioned that you are doing ecotourism, not tourism. So this distinguish this demarcation between tourism and ecotourism is so important to understand actually, and that's why probably most of the people who take part in tourism activities kind of uh, struggle that ecotourism is different from tourism. Ecotourism has an objective. Ecotourism is not just entertainment and recreation. Entertainment and recreation are part of that, but more important is actually generating awareness about ecology, ecosystem, environment, and experience the authenticity of the nature. So I really liked actually this approach and the what you have said right now. A couple of more things actually, and I'd like to get Akhil's perspective on that. That there are, we have heard actually in newspaper and in public media. So there are, particularly from Amrabad Tiger Reserve's point of view, all that there's a highway, national highway has gone through tiger reserves, which is taking us to a pilgrimage site. And there are a lot of road killing incidents. There are discussion about four laning actually that highway, and also there are that the discussion about uranium mining near about the Amrabad Tiger reserves. So are those kind of adding into the problems of conservation and the ecotourism activities in Amrabad Tiger reserves, particularly from your point of view?
Um, yes, I would definitely say these, especially mining, etc., in a tiger reserve, it will definitely affect the ecotourism activities, because this is something which is actually born many millions of years ago.
Hmm.
Today we know it as Amrabad Tiger Reserve, but the entire landscape existed from a very long time. So much of nature is there, and there's so many important things in that particular tiger reserve. There is a reason why that tiger reserve also exists for its own self. So, of course, probably there are many. There are many aspects why we might have to mine that area. Example, uranium. I wouldn't not want to name all of them, but see, what happens is, because there is a reason the tiger reserve exists, it's better it is left alone. To have some major landscape changing activities in a tiger reserve, that will drastically affect ecotourism, yes, but more importantly, lives which are dependent on that particular tiger reserve, and also the ecotourism activities which are being run by the forest department to safeguard others' life. Everything is going to be at stake.
Right.
That's the reason why, with whatever small amount of natural resources we have, it's a contiguous stretch of forest which extends into the Andhra Pradesh also, and it's a very important ecosystem, a very important lung. And even if you look at the soil, the rocks, they are age old. They from time immemorial. It's definitely worth to preserve all this for our future generations, and also because we'll have to take great care of the climate. And to have at least a 2000 odd square kilometer area destroyed for certain other reasons which the government might feel important too, but uh, this will never come back,
Hmm.
and it will create a hole in that entire beautiful landscape of Nallamala forest. And that's something which uh, definitely needs to be corrected. And any future such kind of plans that the government has, they should always consider the kind of dependency people have towards that. So it's not just the local people who depend on it. In fact, I believe it's the entire Telangana no, depends on the tiger reserve and the all carbon that it soaks up, which is being produced by us. This is something priceless. So we have to protect this area. And coming and talking about the road kills, it doesn't really affect the ecotourism there, but road kills they do affect. Um, there's one problem majorly which nobody looks at. Say, for example, in the wild, it is only the strongest which breed. If
Survive.
left alone,
Hmm.
it's because the point is to pass on the best genes. Now, because of these linear constructions, usually what happens in nature, the strongest animal obviously will survive. But because of these linear constructions, even the strongest will not stand a chance. That is one thing, and we'll definitely have to put a lot of speed breakers which are there already there. And then, thank God, the park gates are also closed
Right.
during from a particular time to the other, and this is the time when animals can actually freely move in and out, visit other areas of the forest for foraging or any reason which they have. So it doesn't really directly affect the ecotourism, but yeah, linear constructions, like I said, they might affect the future survival of those strong genes in some of the cases. That's what I felt. This is one of my opinions which I have about this, but about the roads, etc., that pass right through tiger reserves or national parks anywhere. That
No, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Uh, uh, Very valid insight, Akhil. And that there are many scientists, conservationists also kind of will resonate with you exactly what you have just told us. So since you said actually the tiger, the strongest animal actually, the apex predator, but that also doesn't stand any chance in front of any anthropogenic activities, whether it is linear projects or any other anthropogenic activities. So we know that Amrabad is the second largest tiger reserve, around probably 2,600 square kilometer. And as per 22 census, there are 20 tigers, so which is probably around 130, 135 square kilometer per tiger. And based on whatever we have learned from scientists, especially if we talk about Dr. Ullas Karan in his book Among Tiger, he mentioned that should 5 to 6 tigers should be there in every 100 square kilometer of a forest area. That's the most healthy density of male tigers. I'm talking about 5 to 6 male tigers. And in case of Amrabad Tiger Reserves, there is way more than that, that healthy density which you can think about, which is probably not there in most of the tiger reserves we have, especially in the central Indian tiger reserves where density is really high and unhealthy. However, somehow that has kind of impact on tiger tourism. So we know that in India and subcontinent, this is the concept called tiger tourism. And over a period of time, this tiger tourism, this tiger photography has got immense popularity among tourist and eco-tourist and photographers. So do you think, so maybe Shwetha, you can answer, and then Akhil, you can also share perspective after that, that this type of tiger tourism and tiger photography, and all the same time, Amrabad has less density of tiger, however, it's a healthy density of tiger, has kind of effect on the overarching purpose of ecotourism?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a very good question. At this point of time, I think everybody is focusing on tourism, and everybody calls it as ecotourism. But I think I believe ecotourism has to be practiced in real sense. Okay. So unless I think it's not a responsibility of a person who's running the tourism or ecotourism. I think the responsibility is on shoulder of all the people who are taking care of the ecotourism, right from the driver to the guide to the people who are going into the forest, the tourists, they play a very, very, very important role. Everybody talks about rules and regulations. There are always rules and regulations in place. They're always written somewhere. But I think it's all about individual person. If I'm a tourist, I have to be very responsible, and I think I should always have a positive, approach. And I have a right to question, right? So why can't we use it in a right way? So when as a tourist, when I'm traveling into the forest and I see that there is something not right, I just cannot accept it, and I cannot start thinking bad about it within myself, or I go back home and tell it to 10 people. But it's not that way. I think I feel like it is it's a it's a responsibility. Okay, it's like you can influence people by asking questions. Ask them critical questions like why this, why that, why can't you do it in this way? Why this is happening? This is not right. So when you start asking questions, okay, so tourists is like it's happening big time. So each individual, when they start asking certain critical questions, the people who are taking care of this tourism will understand that there are people to question you.
Yeah.
So indirectly, it becomes their responsibility to take or implement certain things in ecotourism and practice the same thing in a right way.
Right.
So in the same way, when you talk about the, in recent times, when I was a kid, I hardly used to see the wildlife photographers. I know few of them were very famous people. Okay, and we used to, they used to go into the jungles with big cameras, and they are the only ones who used to actually they play a very, very critical and very important role. Because they are the ones who's going to showcase this beauty of the nature to the world. Otherwise, I think that's the reason why I was able to like wildlife, because I lived in villages and I know I stayed there and I was able to experience it. But I don't think everybody gets that opportunity, right? So sitting at home, why now children? If I know I'm very happy. If when I go back to my childhood, if somebody asks about even a tiger, nobody knows it. We don't know anything about tiger. What is a tiger? It's a we only talk about it's a yellow animal with black stripes. This is what everybody is to talk about. They don't even know whether it's yellow, orange, or what color it is. Okay, but now thanks to this wildlife photographers and all the documentaries which are done by them, they give those in beautiful depth knowledge about these animals. I think today, if I go to any schools, at least children know what wildlife is. I
Yeah.
think this is all because of these wildlife photographers. So they have a very, 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 very crucial, conservation is not just working for the wildlife, being with the, taking care of habitat management, poaching doesn't happen. These all things are very important. I think equal importance is also on the wildlife photographers and the tourism people, the tourists who are going, because they are the ones, they see the world, they go and tell it. And these wildlife photographers are the ones who showed actually the entire world what the hidden beauty of the forest is. And they are the one, if we all are today and we to have a healthy future and everything, I think each one of them played an important role. Even if I talk about you, you are from a different background and you got into the wildlife. So these all, like, how somebody gets into photography is like we see somebody's pictures on the internet or somewhere, and we get inspired and we see, oh, is it so beautiful? Talking about a smallest, not just a tiger, the smallest of the small. Even if you take a picture of a hummingbird, you take a picture of a small, I can say, I like rusty spotted cat. If you
Okay.
take a picture of that, which is unknown to a lot of people, in Amrabad Tiger Reserve, we have a caracal. Nobody knows about it. But if I can picturize that one and okay, you don't need to have a documentary, but take a picture and just write little bit about it. So people know that there is something called caracal. This all is done by good writers, good photographers, and the people who worked hard to make these documentaries. Definitely there is a different I can decide to that, that people are able to make money, but the amount of efforts they put, and that's what I say, when they do something, they have to do it in a right way, so that when photographers go into the jungle, when they are always busy, they want the best shot. Okay, but don't chase the animals and don't be behind the animals. You got to respect them. Okay, we have to learn a lot of things in terms of respecting. Have the They have the equal right on this. I think I can say they have more right on this planet than us. They came before before us. So I think
Absolutely.
the wildlife photographers not just educating people but showing the world, but for themselves also they have a lot of responsibility. So ecotourism in real sense will work when they follow the things and they have to set rules for others.
Absolutely. And very well said, Shweta. And this is exactly what the one of the key message I tried to convey to my book, Pseudo Ecotourism in the Shadow of the Bengal Tiger, that ecotourism as a hobby and wildlife photography as part of that is very powerful influencer. It's very powerful influencer to promote various concepts of sustainability, exactly what you have said. And this is not just the responsibility of forest department or the ecotourism nature guides. It is also the responsibility of the ecotourists and wildlife photographers who are participating. And as you have said, asking these critical questions all the time, and then make each other realize that what our responsibility is actually, as far as the genuine ecotourism is concerned. And then only we can, then only will the overarching purpose of ecotourism will not get defeated.
Yeah.
uh, Otherwise we'll always busy in tiger chasing, which is kind of defeat the purpose. So Akhil, what's your perspective about that? um, and and especially if I ask you about the question with respect to the book, Pseudo Ecotourism, which was published 4 months back, and you read the book. So uh, from that book's point of view, what probably could give your special attention and kind of complement what Shweta has just said, actually, the everybody's role. So if you share some perspective on that.
Yeah. So even I agree, photographers are very, very important.
Mhm.
In fact, uh, they were also partly responsible for why I developed my passion had increased multifold about wildlife, because in the recent past 15 years what I've seen is many creatures have been brought to light by these photographers. They did a wonderful job, and that actually made me more and more curious about many other animals. So that kept me updated. So as in when I get to see something new or anything very interesting, I try to find out from where is it and read about that animal. And myself, because I've seen those pictures, I also thought I should go there to learn more uh, by staying there in that particular area and experiencing that particular subject, which found a great interest in me because of that some one of those photographs. So yeah, I think this is very, very important. And what I actually felt is photographers, they do, actually the issue might be because of some amateur photographers who they do not know. They're still experimenting how it has to be done. So because of lack of guidance, sometimes you feel that uh, because of these people, the concept of overarching is slowly surfacing. But I think there is one solution for that. Uh, Probably, see, wherever there is a tiger reserve, wherever there is tiger tourism, etc., there are so many resorts, and we all stay in a resort. So what I've seen is I've stayed in many resorts, but I have never seen any participation from the resort side, which would tell that there are many times the tiger is surrounded by tens and 20 vehicles at the same time, but no one tells that how important it is to give way to the tiger. Just an example. It could also happen to a Gaur one day. So, is if these resorts where they check in, before their safari, they should actually participate in good, healthy conversations with all their guests. So that's when the crowding factor will definitely subside, if not today, very soon.
Yeah.
And I've noticed even the drivers and the nature guides, they are also quite sensitive, but they look at 100 different kinds of guests on a uh, monthly basis. They're telling everybody how one has to behave. even they would want to give a lot of space to the tiger, but it doesn't happen. Often the demand comes from the tourist or the guest who wants to see it at a very close range. He want to have a selfie, and someone want to peep out and look as close as possible to the animal. So all these things. But I think some amount of orientation. I would not say orientation. I would say resorts, should take part in very healthy conversations with guests. And I think it's a small issue. It will easily subside, with this one additional step from the resort. That's what I feel actually. And
It's a very good suggestion, recommendation. I mean, probably resort owners also do not think in that way, that actually they have a role to play. Whenever the guest is checking in, you generally, when you're checking in a hotel, they tell you about hotel's rules, right?
right.
The rules that what guests need to follow. Why we cannot say, since we are doing ecotourism, we cannot tell one few additional things about how to behave in forest.
Yeah.
That's a
And
very
actually,
valuable recommendation.
even if they did it, it is only for their good. Because if you engage yourself with a guest at that particular level, your guest is for you forever.
Yeah,
He would always want to come to you because of all the conversations you're having with him. That's it.
absolutely,
So this
absolutely.
kind of change, if we see, it will be great. It will easily help the particular issue subside as soon as possible. Quite fast, in fact, I would say. And about your book, I I loved your chapter 6, which says the tiger economy, and I also felt that chapter 8 about the reptiles and the underrated ones. I think there is also a relation between these two. After visiting many wildlife sanctuaries, many tiger reserves, what I thought was, if I acted as if I wanted to see a tiger, definitely if you didn't see one, the guide is going to lose all his morale, and he will not be in a position to talk about anything else in the jungle because it's just the sheer pressure of him on him to show us the tiger. So, of course, first timers they would always want to, because they're spending so much money, they would want to see the tiger. But yeah, just not the tiger. There is so much more in a jungle. So at any given point of time, there will be some interesting fruits, interesting flowers. So many animals get attracted to whatever the forest has in the form of food or nectar for many animals. So uh, many a times, what happens is all these are ignored and chase begins, for the tiger, right? And I would say um, all the nature guides who are there, they should take this as an advantage. If they're not able to see the tiger, they can always stop a vehicle for a quick 5 or 10 minutes, look around, see what they're finding, try to build a small story, which of course should be true to what they're seeing, and talk about all these things. Even if they saw a good, an interesting species of bird, it could be a small one also. I've seen many conversations even after we come back to the guest house or the hotel where we stayed in. It's all about, have you seen the tiger? Have you seen the tiger? Have you seen? So it's like that. That has to. We can't do much about it. But slowly but surely, if we didn't see the tiger, there's so many other things, we were able to see that day.
Yeah,
And you should appreciate the fact that nature had they had an opportunity with the nature to see so many things.
yeah,
So when they are coming to visit any tiger reserve, they should always be open. They should be ready to see anything. They will see the tiger or the gaur or the bear or the leopard one day or the other for sure. But now in the bargain, they don't want to miss many. And the chapter 8 is one of my favorites because, of course, Shweta would also agree because it's all about Western Ghats and snakes and frogs, amphibians. So that's one of our favorites, and I really like that one. And see, these are also, to me, they are as huge as a tiger. And when I look at a frog, some a very special frog like the blue-eyed bush frog or a Malabar pit viper for that matter, it's a great thing because it's a small, tiny thing which you find because of the people who are around you. They know the area very well. So that's how every tourism should lead understand some of the micro habitat, what are the creatures which are found there. Say for example, if someone knew that a particular tree it flowers during that season, and because of that flowering there's a specific bird which gets attracted to it. All these are specials. So these are all specials in the tiger or in the tiger's home, which we should never miss. So what we see we want to protect, what we don't see we may not be able to. So this is something very important. So specifically, I like these two chapters because one, it says, nature guide, he doesn't realize how important he is, and then he gets bogged down at the end of the day. That's not how it should be. He
Right.
has a great life. I'm sure he does safaris on a daily basis. He has so much to see, you know. So they should introduce jungle to all people, all the guests, tourists, etc. In a different way, and then I'm sure it will be very interesting for everyone, and everyone would want to come and see the tiger's home, and not just the tiger.
Add one thing. I know it's all like hype for tiger. People only want to see the tiger. But I think you both will agree with me that when somebody comes and you're not able to see a tiger, but when you go into the safari, you just tell them the relation between these plants, these birds, animals, how they are related with each other. I'm sure I'll tell you, Mother Nature has this tendency to soak everybody into it. The
Yes.
moment you teach them, I personally seen whenever I go with my guest, I sometimes I feel like there's some people who are like I interact with them, and when we talk about such things they feel, oh, they are not unhappy that they didn't see a tiger. Yeah, that definitely I wish will be always there, but they're never disheartened and they never say that, oh my god, it's a waste of time. No, that never happens. People don't know the little things.
Yeah.
They don't know the importance of, people always think that there might be not much of food in summers, but there is a beauty. The mother nature knows to provide food in every season. She never makes their children to starve in any season. So if you explain this, this particular tree, blossoms at so and so season. It has nectar, which attracts birds and other insects, and insectivorous birds will come there, and the flower falls on the ground, which is eaten by the herbivorous animals. If you explain the relation between each other, I think that's an interesting thing, which I think we think everybody knows it, but I think most of the people don't know. Okay, when you create this connection, when you show them this connection, okay, they understand and they see the whole wildlife in a different level altogether. So I believe in creating experience for the people. It's just not a tiger. It's very
Absolutely.
important. I always say that if you're lucky, even if you're not even looking out for a tiger, it will be just right in front of you. You don't have to really look for it. That's what I believe. Okay. So it's all important, is like the experience that you give to your guest is very, very important. And as I told, the mother nature knows how to make everybody love her. Just have to give them that little time to be there.
Very, very well said, Shweta. And as you have said, that it's important to create that experience and give that experience, the holistic experience to your guest, to your ecotourist. And that's exactly what I had started appreciating after traveling with you too in Amrabad. I remember that second day morning, we went for a trek, and you also joined Shweta, Akhil, and me. And there is a Chenchu tribal guy who was also with us. Four of us were doing the trekking, and that trekking was very different for me because that was a botanical tour for me. Because
Yeah.
you too, especially you, Shweta, and of course Akhil, along with that, were teaching me that how these plants and trees are unique, the fruits are unique, the relation, exactly what you talk about, the interrelationship with all other animals, the tribal's dependency on that, and how basically that kind of helping in maintaining the vigor of the forest, the robustness of the forest. And
Yeah.
this type of experience we miss in most of the forests, especially that so-called rich tiger reserves of our country, which are known for tiger tourism and tiger photography. We certainly miss this type of experience. And as Akhil said, the tourism happen, we come back to the hotel and the people ask, "Kuch dekha kya? Kuch dekha kya?" Well, what do you mean by you're in the forest? You don't need to ask this question. Kuch dekha kya? Have you seen anything?
बहुत कुछ देख के आए हैं already.
So by kuch dekha kya, they mean whether have you seen tiger or not, or at least some predator, leopard or some things. But of course, bahut kuch dekha, as you have said, that's forest. You go to forest, it cannot be the case that you have not seen anything. You have the eyes. You should have the eyes. And the nature guides, Akhil, as you have said, that in those forests, they are unfortunate people. Actually, they're always under too much of pressure of showing tiger to the guest, and they are losing their touch to the forest. Now they cannot even identify the most common bird species. I have experienced that in forest of Bandhavgarh, in forest of, I can name actually, Ranthambore, in Tadoba, I have seen that nature guides, they cannot even identify common bird species like paradise flycatcher. They cannot even identify between male and female. They cannot even identify the various types of kestrels and various types of peregrine. A normal tourist should not be expected to do that. But this is the job of nature guide to teach them about this the diversity of birds. They cannot do that because they're forgetting it. But you too, I have seen actually that despite of being part of the second largest tiger reserve of our country, you continued actually this effort of giving experience. The Chenchu tribal who are following you, he may not be as educated as we are, as you are, but he's actually learning this from you. Now, when you become a nature guide, then you become your kind of nature guide who will try to give the overall experience, not just chasing one particular species. So that's a tremendous contribution, and that's what inspired me, honestly.
Thank you.
When I travel when I had
No, and I must agree. All our nature guides today who are there in the Tiger Reserve, Amrabad Tiger Reserve, they talk about all the
everything.
animals,
Yeah.
and they specifically speak a little bit about the tiger also. But it's the holistic experience is what they try to give to all the guests, and they are so excited about sharing their knowledge and showing them visually what they are talking about.
Right.
That makes a lot of difference.
Huge difference. That's what we need to do actually. So thanks for doing this to both of you. And
Thank
we'll
you.
wrap up this session. But before that, whether you have any questions for me?
Oh, yeah. I have a question.
Okay, please.
This is, I think, I feel like, might be some of the people maybe must have read a little bit about ecotourism and stuff. Uh, I just want to understand, you wrote about every chapter has a experience of different places and how it was and how they are doing it. Mm, what I feel, I just want to know whether it's yes or no for it. So
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is right. Is this book all about making people understand what the ecotourism in real sense is? And then I want to know, is it your personal experience? Is that you went around and was able to see everything? So, what do you think the one practice that you feel should change immediately?
Okay. So yes, so this is definitely personal experience. It's almost like an autobiography, I would say. But
Uh-huh.
this is a kind of semi-autobiography or memoir because it's not entirely about me. It's about just 10 years of my life. And that is also focused on my exploration in forests and mountains. So the majority part of my life is missing. Only my life in forest and mountains is mainly highlighted in this book. So definitely personal experience. Everything is real. Every characters are real. Every names are real except three names. Three names I have for three people I have used their pseudonym because their personal life kind of got a little more exposed. You have read the book, you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
Apart from that, it's all real, and the purpose is actually Shwetha, that definitely what you have said, that upholding the real ecotourism, which I call inclusive ecotourism, where every human, non-human life forms have place. Not just every fauna and flora, but the human being also, especially the indigenous people, forest dweller. They should be also part of your ecotourism. When you go for ecotourism, there should be effort to learn about their culture and lifestyle because they are way more sustainable than what we can think about.
Yes,
So,
actually.
right. So knowing them will basically enlighten us. We learn sustainability from them. They have that much of capacity to teach us. So this is what I mean by inclusive ecotourism. And that's what I want to promote. That concept I want to promote through every chapters of this book. And you know what, Shwetha, and Akhil, when I started I am an environmentalist, trained environmentalist, right? So I have a background, academic background, professional background, but I started ecotourism wildlife photography 10 years back. And that time I also ran after tiger when I started it. My objective was just to see tiger, just to photograph tigers. Why? Because I want to be a talking point in my social circle. I was running for fame and glory through tiger photography, through tiger chasing. And then I realized the mistakes. And then I realized that I have to tell this story to other people. That
Okay.
I know there are people like me. Most of the wildlife photographers and ecotourists are like me. They want to see tiger. They want to only run for tiger and to only take photographs of tiger. But that's not the right thing to do. And that kind of main inspiration for me to tell these stories. And that's what, as you have said, in every chapters, that's what I wanted to emphasize. That ecotourism, what should all about. And what you guys exactly what said in last 1 hour on actually doing since 1995, as Akhil said. Uh, it's a long journey, and I hope that people actually follow you more and more.
Thank
Other
you.
tourism operators, other wildlife photographers should interact with you more and more, and there's a lot to learn from your experiences. Actually, Amrabad is actually a case study for inclusive ecotourism, I personally believe, and that's the main reason I thought that I should do a podcast with you. And this is just
Thank
probably Shwetha and Akhil. As we progress, probably for various aspects of sustainability and ecotourism, we'll talk more, we'll learn from each other, and we'll try to disperse our experience to the society so that we can make little impact in the society
Oh,
for
yeah, definitely.
for the for the genuine sustainability and ecotourism.
Sure. I think
Yeah,
it's our responsibility to ensure that we pass on the healthy ecosystem to the future generations. That's
absolutely.
that's what is
Absolutely.
our role is now, and I think we'll definitely be there, and we are going to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you very much, both of you, Shwetha and
Thank
Akhil.
you.
Thanks for
Now,
participating in this, and we'll conclude the session. You two have good life. We'll stay in touch and keep talking.
Sure.
sure. And
Thank you,
wish you
Arnav, for all
good luck.
this.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Akhil.
All right. Yep. Also, yes, Arnav, good luck. And yeah,
Thank
the
you.
only message I have is, any opportunity to visit jungles, go and try to experience, not just chase a particular subject. Have few subjects to chase at least.
Yes. Yes. At
That's the
least
only message I have to for everyone. But yeah, I must thank you really for organizing this. It's been great. We had a very good conversation, very interesting conversation. A lot of learning also from this conversation to me. Uh, Thank you very much, Arnav, and good luck with all your future expeditions. I would say forest is there to be discovered, so discover as much as possible.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arnav, for this opportunity, and I wish you good luck. And I know for all of the things that you want to do, and I am sure you will be there for all the good things that we will work together, and make sure that the forest, the wildlife is in in place. And all I can say is like let's strive and make sure that we give a better future for the next generation. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and yeah, I think a long way to go. And this interaction, I never thought, we can, I was able to talk about so many things, and I went to my past as a kid, you know, and it's like, it's like somebody telling us that, you better be more responsible. Like when we're talking to ourselves and I'm talking to each other. So it made us again to question ourselves, am I doing the right thing? Or are the other goals? So I started, picturizing, and I started putting some more goals to myself that, this is what I'm going to achieve this year. This is what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too.